All right. So my topic, um, hopefully it won't take too long, but it was just what are each of your personal's experience with anime and manga? Uh, kind of like when did you guys start? Are you as into it as you were before? Um, are you glad that you have been part of it? That not super detailed, but with some information. I Not really too much of a discussion topic, but I feel like I wanted to just more of a learn about each other. I don't know. And I guess I'll go first. So I was first introduced, technically speaking, to Pokemon, Digimon. I think we even had Dragon Ball Z.
Saturday
Uh,
morning cartoons. That's what.
mhm. And but I don't know. Some people argue that that doesn't count because you didn't know it was anime at the time. But like, I guess my blooming stage into anime was more in middle school, and it's actually kind of fun that my sister's here, and I blame her because I would sneak into their room and take the manga and read them, and then put them back, and she'd always get mad at me.
Yes, I could tell when people touched my things.
Well, the libraries things, thank you. But and then I think it was closer to wasn't in high school, but it was closer to high school is when we first started watching anime, such as I remember one, Oh My Goddess. That was a weird show. Uh,
I never watched that one actually.
yeah, it's not that good. Azumanga Daioh, for example, like Trigun. Um, what was the one I showed you guys? The Melancholia Haruhi Suzumiya.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Beluga here didn't like that show, or didn't like me watching it at least. I guess it was still too fan servicey. But and then kind of going from there, it's just kind of grown, but it's also shrunk. Where from those times I was able to read, like 10 books a day, 30 minutes each book, and I can't do that anymore. I get like five chapters in, and okay, I'm tired. Unless
Gold.
unless it's like a really fun one. I read this short series, those 40 chapters, and I finished it all at one night. It comes and goes. It's not as consistent anymore. Like I watch like 5 episodes at the most, and then it goes months that I don't watch anything. Um, but I don't know if you guys have any other questions you want to ask about our history with it, feel free to ask everyone else as well. But how about you, Mako?
Mine was. I was going to say the first I heard of was Dragon Ball Z, but then as soon as you said Pokemon and Digimon, I was like, oh yeah. I actually grew up with those too. So, I mean, like Pokemon was my first ever video game, and yeah, we loved the show, and then we watched Digimon, had a lot of fun with that. So I would say, it's still technically anime, even if you don't know what it is, or even if you don't know whether it is or not. Like, come on, gatekeeping. But yeah, I don't. I wouldn't say I blossomed, as Hammerhead put it, until college, and even then, I'm the probably the most casual of the four of us, because like all I do was every now and then either one of you or my sister at home would say, "You have to watch this anime." I'd say, "Okay, you got nothing better to do." So we'd watch it, and sometimes I'd say, "Yeah, that was pretty good," and in one case, I was like, "Oh, that was awful," and I stopped watching it. That was that heavy metal one.
Yeah, yeah. It's like an 8.4 on my anime list, and it's not. It's not that good.
I hate the protagonist so much. But
Title of that
Um,
one?
oh, you've seen that one?
Which one is it?
What was it called?
Are you thinking of Gretzko? Or a
Oh
different
no,
one?
Gretzko is good. We like that one.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like Metal Night City. I'll look it up while you guys talk.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it was like developed. I think Ozzy Osbourne was a consultant or something like that. So it's just about this kid who's like really shy, but secretly he's a heavy metal singer. But he's such an awful person that a few episodes in, I was like, I can't stand this guy.
Gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
okay. Can I
Interject.
yeah, really quick. What was funny though is that we were switching between I think Violet Evergarden and the heavy metal. We would watch one episode and then we would watch the other episode, and it was such a contrast.
Yeah, those are sound like pretty polar opposite animes.
On Violet Evergarden was so good. Oh man.
It was Detroit Metal City. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah.
So definitely different type of genres, and they probably focused for different people.
Yeah. Well, then my sister showed me Black Clover. I couldn't get into it because the main character screams too much. And then there are other ones though where I was like, this is really good. Like enough I started buying some of her for myself, like My Hero Academia and uh Nichijou, which was funny because first two episodes I was like, what is the point of the show? And then the third one I was like, oh, well, this is this kind of like Looney Tunes, and that's when I started liking it. So yeah, like even though I am a casual fan and anime is not usually the first thing I think of like to watch, there are still a few that I like enough I bought them. And like recently I've been exploring a bit more just because I watch a few clips and YouTube thinks, oh, he wants to be flooded with anime clips now. So every now and then I'll find something like that looks like a good show and I'll start watching it. So that's when stuff like Buddy Daddies and the new season of Love is War.
Less Buddy Daddies.
It's a little bit similar to Spy Family, which is also awesome. The idea. Have you seen Spy Family, Beluga?
I love Spy Family.
Oh, it's so good.
I want to do a cosplay with my family, actually, doing Spy Family this fall.
Oh, oh, your daughter would be so cute as Anya.
Yeah, and then my youngest daughter, we were going to have her be Bond Man, the dog.
Bond. Just give her a little bow tie.
Yeah, white outfit with bow tie and like little black gloves or something.
Oh, you'll have to send us a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, but the idea behind Buddy Daddies is like these two hitmen are doing a job.
Oh, okay, I know. Yeah, they kind of adopt the girl. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this little girl gets caught up in it and they end up adopting her. So that one's really funny and actually has some pretty emotional moments too. But yeah, like to this day, I kind of just view anime as anything else. You know, there's good things and there's bad things. So when someone's like, I don't watch anime on principle, I'm like, okay, we're missing out on stuff you might actually enjoy if you gave it a shot. Like, it's not all just one type of genre. Like, there's a lot of different kinds of shows within that medium.
Yeah, I tell people they have an anime probably for that. Whenever they see something or talk about something, there's probably an anime. There's an anime on every kind of sport out there, on any kind of genre. You can always hook someone on anime. You just got to find the right show.
Yeah. Oh, and sometimes it's had good effects. Like my sister got into baseball and started playing it because of a baseball anime.
Oh.
So, and then, I remember Hammer and Lemon watched this one channel. It's with a guy called Giguk, I think.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was talking about how like he started watching this anime about, going to the gym, and then he felt motivated to go to the gym. So, it's like I'm glad that I got more into it. So, especially because I do have family members that are like what I mentioned, very closed off to the idea. How about you, Lemon?
Alright, so um, not gonna lie, when I was a teenager, I thought anime was super weird, so I kind of avoided it. And also, I never really had access to it either. Right now, I think about it, because I never really had. Well, I did have access to internet, but like the internet growing up where I lived at was not that great, and I just never really knew what anime was exactly. I just kind of avoided it. It's like, yeah, it's weird, whatever. But I guess the first anime, well, not real anime, but anime-ish that I got into was Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I got into that, and I was like, "Dang, this crap slaps! Like this is good."
That is a really good show.
Yeah, and like that's like the one exception I made. But then I kind of went through like this weird phase where I got obsessed with anything like Eastern Asian, like anything that's Japanese, Chinese, Korean. Like it was also my senior year of high school. I was getting ready and preparing myself to go on a mission type of thing, and I thought it'd be so cool to go to one of these exotic places and learn like some cool Asian language and be a part of the Asian culture and stuff like that. And I just kind of got obsessed with whatever was Asian. Also, during that phase too, one of my was really interesting. I had a physics teacher who basically like threw away his like rule book and turned this class into a history class and talked all about the Pacific War, or Pacific World War with like the Japanese and the Americans and all that. And yeah, it's really, his what's the word? Justification for doing that was because it's talking about the atomic bomb, which is about physics. And yeah, so he basically and like I learned a lot about like Japanese stuff, and like it was really interesting learning about it from that perspective. Like no one really seems to talk about the Japanese World War as much as they talk about the European side of World War II. So
Yeah.
and just all that combined got me really obsessed with it. And then I had this friend that was a girl, not quite a girlfriend, but a friend that was a girl at the time. She got me. We had this online class at high school our senior year, and we'd mute the teacher that we'd mute the teacher that she like played episode of like or on host club. And I thought it was weird.
Yes.
I thought it was really weird, but like for some reason like it like grew on me. I think it's because I was watching with her, and like it was kind of like a friendship moment thing, and I was like, you know what, I'll give this a shot. Like I'll watch it. And like I never got really into it anime, like, but I still like did at the same time. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like at the time I kind of got into it mainly because I was really obsessed with Japanese and Asian stuff in general. So I was like, I'm consuming Japanese content. So if I go to Japan on my mission, this will help me learn the culture and all that kind of BS like that, which is really silly and stuff. And so I watched that one, and then my cousin at the same time, she kind of went through like a Japanese like anime weeaboo phase as well at the same time I was. So she introduced me to some shows. She introduced me to crap, what's it called? Black Butler and
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Vampire Knight, and just a lot of interesting shows. And my friend from high school, I don't think there's any other shows she introduced me to, but we watched Oran Host Club together, and it's kind of like our bonding thing as well, and it was kind of fun. But I still I feel like I only was into anime mainly because I was into Japanese stuff at the time. The first time I really got into anime because I thought the anime itself was like really sucked me in was after my mission on beginning of college again, starting college again, right before I met Hammerhead and Mako. I kind of went through this weird, or I kind of discovered some anime that I'm like, dang, this is actually like, really good on its own without it being like, Japanese, So it's like,
Yeah.
I got into like Tokyo Ghoul and Attack on Titan, and if I Tokyo Ghoul, I remember I like listened to like some of the anime openings and unironically just like listen to it just because it was Japanese, and like I thought it was cool that I was exposing myself to Japanese music. But that was the first opening. I think for Tokyo Ghoul opening was the first opening where I was like, dang, this is actually like unironically like good. Like actually will listen to this just because I want to listen to it rather than I'm listening to it to get like that Japanese fix. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
see, I kind of got into. I didn't really get into like manga per se, like mainly because it's expensive and this. I grew up in the rural area, and the nearest bookstore is like an hour away, and we visit it like maybe once a month at a time, so I never really had much access to go find manga, and I didn't really know how to use the internet as well. Like I didn't know how to look up stuff for free as well, so I'm still trying to learn that as well. But
Yeah.
I didn't really have access to manga that much, and honestly thought like it was weird trying to read from like right to left, and also like I didn't like that it was all black and white. I was like, I only read comics that are in color type of thing. Kind of like my pretentious person, um, but yeah, like right now I kind of go back and forth with anime. Sometimes I really like it. Some days I'm just like I don't feel like it. Like there's a lot of anime that I really if I get into an anime, I'll really get obsessed with it, but then I'll kind of forget about it and whatnot. But yeah, my relationship with anime and manga right now, I feel like I prefer manga, to be honest, more. I think mainly because I can imagine my own version of how their voices are. A lot of voice acting in anime just annoys me.
Yeah.
Like even Japanese versions, like there's just a lot of screaming, and I'm just like, okay. Like in some like in action scenes and like a lot of like action anime and stuff, I understand it. But if it's like a slice of life and just like random stuff, there's screaming for no reason, just annoys me. But I know it's really interesting with anime because I feel like you said earlier, Beluga, like there's an anime for anything, pretty much. And like if you dive deep into it, you can like find any anime that really fits you as well. And it's just really interesting how there's so much out there. I think it's really cool how um a lot of these animes and mangas are created by like one person typically, and like it's one person's vision. And I feel like there's a lot of we'll go into our other topic, my topic later, but I think it's really cool how there's a lot of individuality and a lot of unique stuff out there. So, but yeah, like that's my relationship with anime, and right now I still like it, but I kind of just dip my foot in every once in a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to come up for a breath of air from all the fun and hyperness. Sometimes it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, another thing I will say about anime I really like is that the episodes are a lot shorter, like 25 minutes typically, and then the seasons are 12 episodes, so you can easily like watch through it versus like a live action American TV show. It's like an hour long each episode, and I like this fact that anime episodes feel a lot more condensed. There's a lot less fluff than there is in live action, like because everything's meticulously drawn out and animated. You can't have a lot of fluff in there because it just will cost the company money. So it is for my ADHD brain. It's really nice to like just watch something and get straight to the point.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn to say my bit.
Mhm.
Um, well, I'm the oldest person out of this group. I kind of go along with when Lemon was talking about online stuff. Yeah, I grew up. There wasn't the internet's definitely changed a lot since I was a kid, and we'd have to go to the library to go use the internet because we only had dial-up, and if we're trying to do something, only one person at a time or things like that. And I would say for me, my history first started off in I was really interested in reading, and so I started reading books, obviously, and wanted to find different things to read. And I was really intrigued with Asian culture. I would say the first thing was probably some Chinese stuff. Some Chinese books. I was big into like Dear America books, and they had an offshoot of that was like Dear Princess. Like they were royalty books, and it was like a Dear Diary focused on these princesses from around the world. So there was like an estate, like, and they're based off of real royalty. So they had a Korean one, they had a Chinese one, they had a French one, they had German, English, and stuff like that. And I thought those were really cool cultures. And I loved watching Sailor Moon, which was out on, early morning cartoons and Saturday cartoons, and then there was Tokyo Mew Mew. And I was like, this is really cool. This is really fun. And growing up, there were a couple of Asians that were in my school, and we actually had cousins who were older than us that were half Korean on my father's side, and so I always thought they were very beautiful people. And so I delved more into reading, and I had a good friend who was really into art in we met in second grade, and then she moved when we were about in sixth grade. But during those couple of years, she told me about a manga called Fruits Basket.
Okay.
And that has a very near and dear close to my heart because that was something my friend, I thought it was so cool that she was really good at drawing, even though, for a little kid, she was pretty good. She's still really good now as an adult. And after she moved, I was really sad that I lost a close friend, and I wanted to try to get closer to her. And so I had heard that it was a book series, and I found it at my local library. And I didn't read it until I was probably in junior high. And I was like, this is really different, kind of like how Lemon was saying, like reading it backwards, and I didn't know where exactly to follow the word. Like, this is so confusing. I had reread things, but I thought I was like, oh, this is kind of similar to how my friend was drawing. And I slowly fell in love. I kind of ostracized myself. I didn't feel like I had a lot of close friends growing up. And so I would always turn to the library and to the books. And so after I read that one, it wasn't completed at the time. So I was like, well, what else am I going to read? And so I found some more manga, and I was learning more and more. And I would say I definitely was more into the manga before I was into the anime. And then I had heard that some of these books that I was reading was, in animation form. In high school, I was talking with a friend who was like, yeah, didn't you know that there's an anime? And I was like, what? And this was Orion High School Host Club. And so I watched it, and I was like, this is crazy, but super fun. And luckily, our library had a really vast collection of manga books along with the animes that you could check out in DVD. And so sometimes I would watch those and check them out. And then in my high school, we were very blessed to have some collections of manga that I can't find anywhere now, and they're
Really?
really expensive to buy. And
Which ones?
There
I
was
was
some.
I was library aide there.
Yeah, I was library aide too. Because of my love for books, I got some ins on some things, and there was some I think one was called Never Give Up. It was about a girl who was very masculine looking, and
Yeah.
she was good friends with a boy who was very feminine looking, and they both got into modeling and everything. And then there's a couple others. Fruits Baskets, some of the original volumes now are hard to find, and they are expensive. They only have the new remakes that they've done with new pictures and stuff like that. So, but I would also say there was oh no, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, the other thing that I got into first was Kiki's Delivery Service. I remember watching the trailer because Disney had put it out in 1998, I think.
Yep.
And they were. Do you hear my family background?
Yeah, it's okay.
And they. I was like, I want to watch this. This looks so good. And I could only see the trailer. And then I finally got to watch it on VHS. And then as my brothers got into anime and manga, they had told us about Studio Ghibli. And so the first one I actually feel like I watched all the way through was Howl's Moving Castle, which was based off of a book. So I had to go read the book after that. And it just flew. Like, I always stayed into Asian culture. When I got into high school, I joined the Japanese language club that they had. I put together, like, I was in it for 2 years, and then my senior year, I was the president in it. And then in college, I got into Korean culture. I still loved the Japanese, and then I was looking into Chinese things. I applied to go teach abroad in Taiwan, and then I met my husband, and of course, he's Chinese. So I definitely have always been intrigued and loved the culture, and have adopted the term that I am an egg, where I am white on the outside but desire to be yellow on the inside for Asian culture. So I still love it. I think I'm not, reading as much manga as I used to, because I've definitely changed my personal rating. I went through some pretty dark stages and probably read and watched things I shouldn't have at a young teenager age. But I still love it, and I've turned to a lot of online reading, like Webtoons, which is a Korean server that puts out a lot of online comics. And I still watch anime. Like, recently, I've actually been having cravings for anime, and I've been rewatching some of my old ones and some new ones. And I still love it. I want my daughters to get into it. And, my husband also loves it too. He grew up watching and reading. Well, not really reading, but he watched a lot of anime, and he also loved the music, and it's been a lot of fun. I think it's an area of focus that a lot of people should try out. I'm constantly introducing Studio Ghibli or manga or anime to other people who seem scared of it. And then I'll be like, you gotta watch this. I promise, it's so good. I let my kids watch it, and they're like, oh, really? Okay. So that's kind of my personal history of it.
Yeah, we got quite a few people that didn't know all or even know Studio Ghibli to join.
Yeah. Most
Yeah,
of
there's
the
a lot of
ones.
Studio Ghibli's. There's a lot of Studio Ghibli movies I watched for the first time with you guys. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
introduced me to that.
I actually finally started buying them. Like, I bought Porco Rosso a few months ago.
Nice.
Such a good movie. Okay, well, we better move on to our last topic, which is very similar. Hammer, you have the floor.
Oh, you mean Lemon?
Lemon, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Miko. So, yeah, kind of my topic's very similar to the last one we talked about, somewhat. So, I want to kind of discuss and go into the differences between Western comics versus like Eastern, like manga / webtoons and all that. Recently, I kind of went through right now I'm living in more of the city or rural, not rural. What's the word? Urban. Yeah, urban environment where there's actually a comic book shop not too far from where I live. So I'm actually able to go to a comic book shop and check out like a lot of like comics and Western stuff. And I kind of went through a phase past 2 months where I just got really obsessed with a lot of like comics and just reading a bunch of American comics. And but now I'm kind of getting back into manga again, and I kind of want to discuss the differences between the two. I guess before I continue, what are your guys' experience versus with American versus manga?
So it's interesting because our dad grew up reading comics, but I really never have. I probably read maybe 5. It wasn't even a complete series.
Come on.
We have a we have a random like Fantastic Four, or at least we used to. And ironically, our most of our exposure to Western type comics is games. Like our uncle had a arcade um with Marvel Fighter and the movies, and so I really actually don't have too much experience with it. There's been a couple of them, like the Lemon. You have the Avatar comics that came out after the series, and I've read those. I guess those are technically Western and all that fun stuff.
Well, Hammer, like, I guess it might be a little different for you versus than for me because our dad, he was one of those classic comic book readers. He read all of them. He knew, like, Superman and was a classic that he grew up reading, and the Green Lantern and Captain America. As I got more into the Marvel universe, I would always go question my dad because my dad is very old fashioned. He didn't really watch. After he became more religious, he didn't watch movies that were PG-13 or rated R above that anymore. And he ended up, I would question my dad after I went and saw the film, like Captain America. I was like, hey, Dad, you know that Captain America comic do you remember these kind of things happening? Like, and stuff like that. And he would pretty much quote the movie word for word because he grew up reading all of that and, knew exactly what was going on. And so to try to get him a gift, I bought him, I think it was the Green Lantern or
Yeah.
comic book or something. And we also read a lot of Garfield comics.
Oh, yes, Garfield. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those were kind of I think, actually, like, thinking about that, that probably was one of our big introductions into comics, and I think why we got into anime, because we kind of struggled with reading a little bit, but hey, reading a picture book was a lot more fun, and so reading Garfield and was really entertaining. And then after that, I got into, what's the name of the other tiger comic
Oh,
book?
Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, that was a classic. And I think because I was into that and I wanted to draw comics, I got like a manga drawing comic book at like a scholastic school fair in elementary school because I loved Garfield along with those other kind of things. So yeah.
Uh-huh.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, no, finish your thought then.
Oh, that was kind of it.
Oh, you reminded me that I totally forgot. They're actually right behind me. There was more that I've actually read. I actually read the Walking Dead comics at school,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, they're a lot better than the show. And the Bones.
Naturally.
I don't know, Mako, you might know Bones.
Bone.
Bone.
Oh yeah, is that the one about there's like Smiley Bone and there's like Grumpy Bone?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah,
No.
Yeah, my sister got me into that. I started reading it recently.
Yeah, those
That's
are really
okay.
fun. But I guess to do the other half of your question, though, I because I'm on a weeb, but I prefer more manga because I feel like, and I don't want to diss on how much effort they're putting on their own series, but I feel like there's a lot more um what I'm trying to say, influx of series coming out in Eastern comics or mangas and manhwas. There's so many of them nowadays, and an issue I feel like with Western comics is they're reusing a lot, which we've talked about before. And so, there's 500 editions of Spider-Man and 50 different Spider-Mans instead of all these different type of versions. And so it kind of becomes a little overwhelming. It's like if there's 5 different types of One Piece series that are out there and they all have 1,000 volumes. You like, okay, maybe I won't read those. I'll read all these smaller ones instead. And I feel that Eastern are a lot better at that. There's a lot of smaller ones that people can enjoy because they realize people don't have all that time or money to buy every single volume of a comic.
No, I definitely enjoyed like Western ones that were they were influenced by Eastern comics, because there were plenty of like ones that I've read that I was like, this is really good, even though it was like, but then you'd always get those haters who are like, oh, that's not a manga or that's not a comic. And it's like, actually, it's like a melding of both. And there's nothing wrong with that because they still are really good. But then there's people who also have the terms like graphic novel, and sometimes those can be very different too, because they often sometimes base actual books into a comic book form, which has been really fun, like a Pride and Prejudice from Jane Austen, or there's quite a few. I think even Twilight has a graphic novel out there, and it really opens up the door in either direction to get people reading in different aspects, which is really nice about comics, graphic novels, and mangas.
Yeah, well, since you said those things, it reminded me of some stuff, and I feel a small rant coming on. So I'm gonna think I should let Lemon say his piece first.
Yeah, I feel that a lot because I really want to get into DC and Marvel, but I just don't know where to start, and there's just so much out there, and I get really frustrated because I'm like, how it's just not very beginner friendly, I should say, versus like a manga. Like you find a manga series you like, you can stick with that series, but it's not like they're going to throw in like a bunch of random characters from totally unrelated series into it all of a sudden and expect you to know everything. I feel like the one American slash Western comic book company that I feel like does it really well is Image, which is the one that did The Walking Dead and Invincible, and they do a lot of other cool stuff. And if I usually go for Western comics, I usually go for the Image ones because I feel like they run kind of like manga a little bit, where like it's completely original stories and it gives more power to the authors slash creators of the comic. Like they're like, okay, you can create your own series and it's your own series from there. It's not going to make you like rewrite the 500 version of Superman or Batman. It's like they encourage originality like how manga does, and I just feel like I think that's kind of why American comics are kind of dying out versus where manga is kind of exploding, because it's a lot more beginner friendly and there's a lot more originality to it. Also, another technical level too. I've noticed that like manga is just so much easier to read. Like, I feel like manga's spaced out more to be like kind of set out more to be like a movie or TV, where the pacing is just a lot easier to read. Because with American comics, I feel like there's usually like a artist and an author. And I feel like the writer tries to shove in as much dialogue as they can, and I feel like there's just a lot more dialogue to read, and this doesn't flow as well. And another thing I want to point out too is the price. You could buy like a single manga volume for like $10 to $12, and it's pretty thick. Like it's a pretty thick volume, and you can read through it pretty quick. But if you buy like an American like graphic novel like booklet, whatever, it's like 15, $16. And it's like not really half as long as the manga. I mean, because it does kind of compensate for like style, because a lot of American comics have like color and stuff like that too. So, but at the same time, though, it's like they're putting. I feel like American Western comics put a lot more effort into like making it like look like super fancy, but then it kind of loses out on like the readability, if that makes sense. But yeah, there's just a little rant I want to put on there. You can go with your thought now, Mako.
Well, now that you've spoken your piece, they gave me some stuff to think about. So now my rant has mellowed out. So, yeah, all three of you have talked about how Western comics kind of don't, they're losing business or kind of dying out, and they don't really go anywhere. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the exact reason why. It's because like the strength of Western comics is that there's so many different versions of the same character. You're bound to find one you like. Like Batman, for example. I grew up with the Batman cartoon. That's my favorite Batman. And then there's the Christian Bale movies, and there was some Justice League comics I read that I liked. But the problem is, while there is all these different, multiverses and comic runs and stuff, it just, a lot of the time, it just leads to rehashing the same character in really meaningless ways. Like there's no linear beginning to end. There's no meaningful progression. Like Batman, case in point, he finally got married to Catwoman last year. I was like, that's great, because, for these two characters that have been loners their whole lives, that's a really big deal. That shows a lot of growth. And then I just found out they said, well, that was like semi-canon, so we're starting a new run where they're enemies. And I'm like, great, guys. That was a waste. Awesome. Like, it made me mad. So I'm like, this is why you guys are losing business, because you don't let the characters grow. You like chain them down to this set of attributes, and then you just rehash them over and over again. And like I said, yeah, there are really cool spin-offs and evolutions and like variations of the character. There's Batman Beyond, but they just don't let the individual characters that we care about really grow. So it just gets kind of pointless. So on the flip side, yeah, the strength of manga and of the Western comics that I do enjoy is that they are linear. They do have a beginning and an end, and there is progression. Like one of my favorite comics that I got into last year is G.I. Joe, like the original classic run, because the characters would change. Some of them even died, and it actually affected the other characters. There was just a set story that, had its ups, had its downs. There were tragedies, there were funny moments, there were romances, there were breakups. And yeah, it had some of the same flaws. It rehashed the same stuff, usually with some dumb plot device like mind control, but it still felt like there was progression for the most part. That's why I loved it so much. So, and I feel like a lot of manga do the same thing. There's progression. They aren't just gonna like take Dragon Ball Z and start it over again, but in a new multiverse or whatever. So, although I guess they kind of did that with Super, apparently. But it's why, for the most part, weirdly, I've probably enjoyed more manga than Western. And when Beluga mentioned Calvin and Hobbes, it made me happy because I grew up with that. So, and that's another excellent, comic series. And that one has not really an ending so much, but, just stories that progress.
It's like snippets of life.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like slice of life with a really smart kid. Probably too smart for his own good.
I love Calvin Hobbes. Yeah,
Oh,
that was the first book. That was the first book I read growing up. Like before I could read, I like looked through the comic book Calvin Hobbes and just laughed at the comic pictures. But yeah, Mako, I totally agree with you. Like that's the reason why I have a hard time getting into like DC and Marvel because it feels like nothing really matters because like this is going to get rehashed and stuff's just going to happen no matter what. Like Superman's going to die, but then he's going to come back as a zombie, and like just all nothing really seems to matter. If it could be anything, it's nothing at the same time. You know, it's like
yeah.
yeah. And you mentioned how when you mentioned how like Bruce and Catwoman finally got married. I remember thinking this I found this one random offshoot where like Bruce is actually like Chinese and like he's going to school or he's going to high school with like the Joker and the Catwoman. It's like a love triangle going on. I'm just like, it's like how like this makes no sense. It's like if you want to tell that story, just create like a new character and new setting and whatnot. But we'd have to like keep reusing the Batman name. It's like you're using it to death and it's becoming nothing. But yeah, it's kind of I feel like that's more like a DC and Marvel problem. I feel like DC and Marvel have kind of overshadowed the comics and like doesn't kind of choked out anything else to really explode. The only things that really exploded outside of DC and Marvel is like um, images were Invincible, The Walking Dead, and like random comics like that, but they don't get as much publicity as DC and Marvel. But
Yeah.
They won't let the fan fictions die.
Yeah.
yeah, for reals.
And they won't let the few good ones roll in.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
oh, sorry. Finish your thought. Sorry.
well, yeah, another example would be Spider-Man and Mary Jane. They actually got married in the comics. I'm like, great. And then they did this storyline. It's become infamous called One Day More, where they sell their relationship to the devil to bring Aunt May back to life. So then they forget all the memories of their time together. And it was so stupid. I'm like, why did you undo a marriage between two characters that work together, that the fans love together? And then, it was like 30 years ago and no one's fixed it. I'm like, you're going to rehash it. Could you at least fix that? Like I said, there's never any meaningful growth. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you.
Well, and then beyond that, I feel like a lot of Western comics are kind of the same. A lot of them are just kind of the action superhero things. I mean, of course, I say that having just said that G.I. Joe is one of my favorites. But I feel like there's more variation with the mangas. Like, one of my favorite mangas, well, probably my favorite comic type thing ever is Yotsuba, which Hammerhead introduced me to. So, and it's just a goofy thing about a guy trying to raise his weird little 4-year-old daughter. So it's so funny and it's got so much heart. I'm like, I can't wait for every new chapter to come out, which kills me because they take like 3 to 4 years for each one. Yeah, I think that's why manga's blowing up because they don't rehash and there's just more variety.
Yeah, with Western American comics, I feel like I don't know, it's really hard to put to words, but it feels like, I don't know how to put it, like they're corporate products almost. It's not as much passion. Like with mangas, you read it and you could feel the passion from like a single person and the person like telling a story they want to tell. But with a lot of Western ones, it feels like it's almost like how do I put it? If you guys have a better word for it, let me know. But it feels like they're putting a lot of effort into like making like this corporate product, if that makes sense. Like I don't know how to explain. There's like so much effort put into like make it really fancy and like all that.
Yeah.
Like
The
they
image.
make sure, yeah, image, yeah. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like manga is a lot more personable and feels like there's more like heart and passion into it. And there's definitely a lot of American like Western comics I've read that are like, damn, this is really good. This really slaps. But it feels like there's, I don't know. It's hard to put a word on it. The formatting and everything just feels like really squeezed together because they're trying to make the artwork as good as possible, which is cool. Like I enjoy the artwork, but it feels like sometimes the artwork and the artist and the writer just sometimes clash, and it feels like the artist is trying to do their thing and the writer's trying to do their thing, and it doesn't quite meld together. If that makes sense.
They've
Yeah.
become a brand, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to sell a brand, and then they're trying to fit every person's needs and wants and desires, and they're trying to make everyone, I don't know, appease every type of audience, which that's okay. You don't have to appease every audience, because once they do something good, they end up ruining it, it sounds like. And that's why I usually just stick with like the films. I was like, I'm just gonna watch the show because I can like end it and walk away from it and then come back to it when I want to, and that's I get my fix.
All right.
Yeah, I dig it. But yeah, that's my rant about Western versus manga comics. I think there's a lot of great American Western comics out there, but it's harder to find versus manga, I guess.
Yeah.
Too. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Beluga.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you all on the next episode of Unisharks.
Hey, thanks for
yeah.
watching.
Bye.
Bye.